Do you regularly speak to clients and others that convince themselves they're more insecure in attachment than they actually are? Sometimes wonder how to tell how insecure I am despite my current feelings. Okay, so, well, that's interesting because it kind of talks about perspective, right? So everything is, of course, from within your own perspective. So, so let's take someone who is, just for example, let's say you have someone who is maybe more on the open-hearted end of the spectrum, right? They have more of an anxious attachment style. They have a strong need and desire to be in a connected relationship. They need to be in contact with that person multiple times throughout the day. They need to be reassured that of that person's feelings, and they need a lot of reassurance. Okay. Now, let's say they encounter someone who doesn't need to do that, who feels like that's a bit overkill, who expresses that, well, I can touch base with you once or twice a day, and then maybe we can make plans to see each other. But texting you more than 2 or 3 times a day feels excessive to me, and that's going to feel like an encroachment on my boundaries, right? Now, is that person avoidant because they feel like that's too much contact? Are they just secure because they're willing to give some but not so much? What does that mean? How do you decide, right? And so this is where we start to get into the gray areas of how we are defining attachment and styles in general, because so much of it is subjective, right? Now, because you could have someone who says, texting once a day is too much for me. I can text once or twice throughout the week so we can make plans to see each other in person. And I might like to see you in person maybe on the weekends and maybe once or twice on a weekday. But more than that feels a little excessive to me. Now, for some person, they're going to be like, oh, that's perfectly reasonable. I've got things to do and that works with my schedule. Whereas someone else might say that is avoidant, and that's moving away from the kind of intimacy that we could be having, the kind of intimacy that I want. Okay. So this is what I mean when I often say that these are dynamic states of being, and that oftentimes we are looking at these through the framework of our own experience and our own worldview and perspective, right? And so a lot of it is really comes down to being able to be aware of your boundaries, being aware of your desire, and then being able to communicate it well enough so that you can understand where you are having points of contact and where there may be points of contrast. And if you arrive at a point of contrast, that's where you start to do a needs, desires, and values assessment. So, for example, and this is what I mean by, as much as we are aware of our fears about things, we equally have to be aware of our desire for certain things. So when you have a fear, right, you have to realize that there is a desire on the other end of it. And once you can tap into that desire, then you can start to create a vibe around it and start to shift your beliefs around getting that desire met. And once you have a belief that is in congruence with your desire, you will be surprised, because a lot of the anxious urgency that evolves from feeling like you're not going to get your desires met dissipates. And once you're able to dissipate some of that, it actually titrates a lot of the resistance to allowing for that to actually come in.